Yes, sir. No issues. No issues. Absolutely. So, how many participants are expected, sir?
100, 150.
Okay, and all of them are teachers.
Uh, no,
Not necessarily.
not necessarily. And
Okay,
we have informed the other colleges also.
okay, okay. Sure, sure.
There are people like Dr. Gauri Shankar and senior people are also involved.
Sure, sir. Sure.
But
Yes.
it's a common thing, so we thought that some PGs are also attending.
Nice, sir. Nice, nice. Yeah.
Sir, can we start?
Let us wait for two more minutes.
Okay, sir. Let us wait for 2 more minutes.
Yes, yes. Because there is no inaugural formalities, so directly the class will be started. So people may miss the initial slides.
Okay, okay, okay. Sure, sure.
I think better we can wait for 5 minutes.
Yes, yes, yes.
So maximum people will be benefited. No?
Now, actually, yesterday all the inaugural formalities, everything is over. Now purely it is academic.
Yeah.
Let us wait.
Yeah, for 5 minutes. No, that will not hamper.
It is 90. Let us cross at least 100 mark.
അതെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആൻസറിന് ഇന്നലത്തെ അതേ മെത്തേഡ് ഫോളോ ചെയ്യാം. ഒരു മെസ്സേജ് വരും.
Sir, can we start?
Yeah, yeah. Why not? Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yes, we can start. Yes.
Good morning. I welcome you all to the second day of the academic series being held in connection with SATAPOORNIMA, the 100th birthday of Padma Bhushan Dr. P.K. Warrier. We have 3 scientific sessions today. Problem-based learning in Ayurvedic pedagogy by Dr. Kishor Patwardhan, futuristic policy interventions for Ayurveda by Dr. Prasanna Narasimha Rao, and charting new horizons, Ayurveda graduates in today's world by Dr. Supriya Balarao. I welcome you all once again to today's session. For the first session of the day, we have Vaidya Kishor Patwardhan, Professor, Department of Kriya Sharira, Faculty of Ayurveda, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. Sir needs no introduction, but again, as a part of the formality, I would like to say a few words about him. Sir is an editor of Journal of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine. He is also the coordinator and principal investigator of Ayurveda Network, a component under Subject-Based Network, Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. Sir is a recipient of Ayush-sponsored Vaidya Scientist Fellowship from the Transdisciplinary University, Bengaluru. He is a member in various scientific committees, including Scientific Advisory Board, Central Council for Research in Ayurvedic Sciences, and Scientific Advisory Committee, School of Life Sciences, Manipal Academy of Higher Education. He has received numerous awards, including the Best Teacher in Sharira, awarded by All India Shari Research Institute, Lucknow, in the year 2015, and Dr. C. Dwarikanath Award for the year 2019, awarded by the Indian Association for Study of Traditional Asian Medicine. His areas of interest include Ayurveda biology, Ayurveda teaching and learning, reinterpretation of Ayurveda textbooks, and Ayush policies. His enthusiasm for the subject is a great motivation for all of us. It's a pleasure to have you with us today, sir. I request Vaidya Kishor Patwardhan to kindly take over the session.
Thank you for those kind words of introduction. I extend my heartfelt thanks to Professor Jayadevan sir, Principal, Kottakkal Ayurveda College, for giving me this opportunity.
വോളിയം ഒന്നുകൂടെ കൂട്ടാൻ പറ്റുമെന്ന് ചോദിക്കും.
And yeah, I wish a very happy birthday to the person in whose name this entire celebrations are being carried out, Dr. P.K. Warrier sir. And it is really a rare opportunity, and we are all happy that an Ayurvedic Vaidya who has such a credentials, huge credentials to his credit, is celebrating his 100th birthday, and this is a very happy occasion for each one
വോളിയം
of
ഈസ് എ
us
ബിറ്റ് ലെസ്.
who is yeah, involved with Ayurveda, right? So am I audible? Hope I'm audible. Okay, yeah. So yeah, today's lecture, in this lecture
Sir, excuse me. Sorry for the
Yes.
interruption. Sir, your
Yeah.
voice is a little feeble.
Okay, am I audible now?
You're audible, sir, but a little feeble.
Okay, 1 minute. I'll try changing my settings. 1 minute. I don't know what is the problem. Uh, uh, I'll try to speak as loudly as possible. Is that fine?
Yes, sir, you can continue. No problem.
Or maybe 1 minute. Let me try disconnecting my earphones. Is it good now?
Yes, sir, you may continue.
Shall I continue like this?
Yeah, you can continue, sir. Please go on.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And so I have been asked to talk about the problem-based learning for Ayurveda education. But before going into the actual problem-based learning, I'll give some introduction to the problem as such. So why do we need these kinds of innovative teaching methods to be introduced in Ayurveda? So our work on these aspects of Ayurvedic education, they began somewhere around 2005 when I took up my PhD, and I did my PhD in Ayurvedic education as a major problem. So, well, let me start with one problem, right? Let me start directly with a problem. So, an asymptomatic male is aged 50 years. His height is 5 feet 7 inch and weight is about 85 kilograms. His blood pressure is 180 by 100 millimeters of mercury, and HbA1c is 7.5%. So the question is, the best clinical decision in this case would be, so there are four options. So I'm going to read out all the four options, right? So first option is monitor BP for a week, advise salt restriction and calorie restriction, advise sufficient physical activity, sugar restriction, review after 1 week. Okay. Second option is immediately start antihypertensives, plan Virechana once BP is stable, right? Third option, start antihypertensives and anti-hyperglycemic drugs, get lipid profile and ECG done, review after 1 month. Okay. Fourth option, refer the patient to a cardiologist and to an endocrinologist. Plan Virechana once a patient's BP and HbA1c become stable. And fifth option is immediately start Prabhakaravati, Kataka Khadiradikwatha, Guduchi Ghanvati, and whatever. So these can be interchanged. I mean, whatever prescription that you may have to, you may include, it is fine, right? And meanwhile, get lipid profile and ECG done. So review after 1 month. So if I give you these five options, 4 or 5 options, and with this problem, so you just think for a while which one would be the correct answer. If I ask you to uh, opt one of these five options, what option would you be opting for, right? So you think over this, and then I'll continue with today's session, right? uh, so now I have got a few questions to you, right? You have, I hope you have visualized and understood the question. Now, is there a correct answer? This is my first question. Is there a correct answer? Can there be multiple correct answers? This is another question. Third question, can one option be correct answer for me and another for you? Think over it. I'm not going to tell you the answer of this as such because it may not have a correct answer. But I'm just trying to make you think. Is there some uncertainty? So do you think that yes, why isn't there a correct answer? And if you think that there has to be some correct answer, why isn't it there? So if it makes you uncertain or uncomfortable, then how to become comfortable with uncertainty? There are uncertainties in the life. Everywhere there are uncertainties, especially COVID has shown how uncertain are our lives. So everywhere there is uncertainty. So in this also, in this case scenario also, there is an uncertainty. So how to become comfortable with uncertainty? You become uncomfortable, right, with such questions. Many of us become uncomfortable. So how to become comfortable with uncertainty? So to have this answer, or how to become comfortable with uncertainty, we have to read some basic theories of education. Then only we will understand the entire context of education and why education is required and how the education is to be imparted. I'll give you a few more examples. All Ayurvedic physicians do not have a similar approach to practice. This you know, right? Maybe someone from Kerala might view at the Ayurvedic practice in a different perspective from in comparison to another who is practicing maybe in Uttar Pradesh or Bihar, right? The perspectives could be altogether different. So why are these different perspectives? So one might say that I prefer practicing allopathy as Ayurveda is not evidence based. There is no sufficient data available to suggest what intervention is effective in which clinical condition. I have heard many practitioners saying this. Another might say that different Ayurveda doctors diagnose the same patient differently and give different prescriptions. And this is unscientific, right? And hence, I think Ayurveda is unscientific. I have heard many of our teachers and many of practitioners saying this. Whereas on the other side, I practice classical Ayurveda as everything is written in Samhitas, and I faithfully follow Ayurvedic textbooks and get good clinical results. I have seen many of the Vaidyas who speak this language also. Understanding Ayurveda needs a lot of dedication and efforts. Those who do not take Ayurveda seriously fall for fancy allopathy. This is again another valid observation that many of my friends and colleagues are put forth. See, now you have observed diverse opinions among the Ayurvedic physicians who have undergone the same training. All of them have BMS degrees. All of them might have MDAY degrees. Even then, the education is not making everyone equal. This is what I am trying to say. Our education system is not making everyone or everyone's attitudes equally mature enough, right? All of them have different kinds of attitudes. Similarly, let me give you one more example. Maybe Ayurvedic Kriya Sharira teachers, because I come from Kriya Sharira, and in today's lecture, I will be focusing more on our work in Kriya Sharira. So I have seen many teachers who say that Ayurveda and modern sciences should not be mixed up. Both should be kept separately because they are incompatible with each other. This is a valid point. Many of us, we say this, right? Hence, I teach Ayurveda and modern physiology separately. Okay. Another equally valid point is that I see no difference between the principles of Ayurveda and modern medicine. Hence, I teach all the topics in an integrative way. This might be another opinion of the teacher in the same subject. What is there to teach in Ayurveda? We must teach only modern ways of physiology and diagnosis and should ask the students to read Ayurveda by themselves. I have heard several teachers saying this also. And on the opposite side, what is there to teach in modern medicine? It is a half-cooked science. Go into the depth of Ayurveda. Students should be asked to read modern medicine by themselves. This view is also prevalent among many teachers. I'm just trying to show you the diverse views and opinions and attitudes among those who have undergone the same education. Under the same education system, they have been trained. All of them have same degrees, maybe MDAY in Kriya Sharira. But the kind of attitude they have towards teaching and learning are very, very widely variant, or they vary a lot. So this is the question that I am trying to address in today's lecture. Why is this so? And how to understand this? So this lecture will cover what is pedagogy, what is andragogy, pedagogy and pedagogy. I mean, there are different kinds of pronunciation anyhow. Different learning styles, different modes of teaching styles, and our experiences with student-centric methods. So these 4 points I'm going to discuss in the next 40 minutes or so. So what is learning? Learning is the process of acquiring new understanding, knowledge, behaviors, skills, values, attitudes, and preferences. So this is the meaning of learning. Okay. And what is education? So there are two different perspectives from where you can visualize the education process. I take a very classical example, right? Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So this is how you can look at the education from two perspectives. So first perspective is focused on what to learn or what to teach, and teach a man how to fish and you feed for him a lifetime. This is a perspective that focuses on how to learn. So what to learn and how to learn, these are two different things. And which one is more important, more efficient? Obviously the second one. But unfortunately our system focuses on first one. We don't realize that what to learn can undergo changes. The things that we learned during in maybe 20 years ago, many of them have become obsolete. Many of them we don't teach to our students. We teach something altogether different, because the information and knowledge, they keep evolving and they keep changing, right? So what is more important? How to learn is more important. If you teach a student how to learn, and if you make him or her a lifelong learner, then you can just forget about what to learn. He will understand or she will understand what to learn, and she will or he will learn by themselves, keep learning themselves. So this is the fundamental principle of education, right? Now there are two terms, pedagogy and andragogy. So pedagogy means pediatrics, related to children, right? Learning among children. So learner is dependent on the teacher. Whenever we see our children's learn, right, they're all dependent on their teachers. Teacher is the one who assumes full responsibility for teaching whatever is being taught, for what is taught and its efficacy, right? So learner has almost no life experience. So child is like a blank slate, and educator is the one of the most influential figures. You must have realized that whenever you were kids, most of you would dream of becoming a teacher when you became uh, 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 mature, right? So when you grow old, I want to become a teacher. This is a very common dream that our kids have, because they see the teachers as very a big influential role, right? The teachers play a very influential role, or influential figures, right? So learners are told what they need to learn or what they need to do in order to move on to the next level. So the teaching is done in a stepwise fashion. So first they'll teach you what is number, and then they will teach you what is addition, then what is subtraction, and then they will take you to the other complex forms of maybe equations and other stuff, right? So learning is prescribed by an instructor. Topics are broken down into smaller units. Learners are motivated by external sources such as parents and teachers, whereas andragogy is different. It is adult learning. So when the adults, they join the colleges or start learning, right, they they assume their own responsibility. They assume their own responsibility while learning, because learner is self dependent. Learner is responsible for the process of learning. Learner uses life experiences as foundation. Instructors build on existing knowledge. Learner requires an understanding of diverse backgrounds, and adults learn from instructor, but also learn from one another. So this peer learning is very important part of andragogy. Learners don't advance from one topic to another topic, but rather fill knowledge gaps. Learners see a problem and organize topics around that. And learners are motivated by intrinsic means, self-esteem, quality of life, problem solving, and a quest for recognition. And topics are completed by mastery. And yes, this is a shloka that is from Mahabharata, right? Acharya padam adatte, padam shishya swamedhaya, sabrahmacharibhya padam kalakramena cha. So these are the four quadrants, or 25% of learning, right, occurs from the teacher. Remaining 25 occurs from one's own hard work. Then sabrahmacharibhya, the peer learning, and then padam, remaining 25% kalakramena cha, that is experiential learning. So the question is, since Ayurveda is not introduced to our students during their school life, neither during primary school nor during high school, even not during intermediate classes, they are totally unintroduced to Ayurveda. Nowadays, maybe a bit of introduction is there because of this social media and mass media kind of thing. But otherwise, formally, our students are not introduced to Ayurveda, right? Hence, can we have this approach of andragogy to teach Ayurveda? This is a question that we need to think, right? Because they are still totally not aware or introduced to the subject of Ayurveda, which methods we should use. In the beginning, maybe we need to use some pedagogical approaches. And then once they become stable and acquainted to the Ayurvedic kind of epistemology, then you may advance to andragogy. So especially in first year of BAMS, I think we need to follow a bit of pedagogical approaches, and then we will need to advance through the andragogical approaches. Otherwise, we will not be doing justice to Ayurveda, nor to our students. So this is a tricky situation. So especially in the first year, when the students come to Ayurvedic colleges, they are confused. The major problem they face is the cognitive dissonance. Whatever they have learned by reading science and biology, physics and chemistry, they have to unlearn. Many of them they have to unlearn, and many of them they are unable to unlearn because there is huge conflict between the principles of Ayurveda and especially the way how we teach them and the principles of the current contemporary sciences. So this leads to a mismatch between the two knowledge systems, and for many months our students they remain in this conflict zone, and we need to help them to come out of this conflict zone in a smooth fashion, and that is our duty as teachers, and this is what we have been doing since last 10 or 15 years or so. We have been trying to introduce some innovative teaching methods so that a transition from what they know and to what they don't know happens in a smooth fashion. This transition should happen in a smooth fashion. Otherwise, there will be abrupt transition, which often students resist to accept. Right? So there are several learning styles. This also one has to keep in mind. There will be some students out of a class of 100 students, maybe 25% of them are visual learners, right? They need some images and graphics. So if you don't write or draw some figures on the blackboard, they are not going to learn the subject. There could be some auditory learners. There will be some auditory learners, right? Who learn the material best by listening to the lectures, asking questions and participating in group discussions. Then there are reading writing learners who take down notes continuously. They keep on taking down the notes because that is how they learn better. And you cannot compel everyone to take down the notes because that learning style may not be matching with each of the students. So each has individualized learning style. Kinesthetic learners, they like doing something and then they learn. Even if you teach 100 hours of Prakriti, they are not interested till you give them some assignment and give a subject and then ask them to assess Prakriti in a particular subject. Then they do it and then they learn it. They find that way of learning very easy and interesting. So teaching styles, there are many different teaching styles, from teacher centered to student centered. So I'm sorry, yeah. So there are different teaching styles, and this is a spectrum, the teaching style spectrum, right? So teacher centered to student centered. Teaching centered means starting from lecturer or authoritative style, which most of us do. In most of us, our colleges, we follow lecture based learning and authoritative style. Whereas student centered means cooperative style, where they learn by themselves, and teacher doesn't have a major role to play. Only he works as a facilitator. So let us see what's the difference between these types of learning. So in authoritative style, what happens is it follows the traditional teacher centered approach, and it is characterized by lecture sessions on one-way presentations, right? So teacher comes to the class, talks for 1 hour and goes away, right? Here this approach is chalk and talk style. Students are expected to pay attention, absorb the information, take notes and ask questions. That's it, right? This is called classical lecturer or authoritative style. Second style is demonstrative style or coach style. Involves more of showing than telling, right? Instead of telling them that vata produces this, you show them in the patient, or maybe show them some slides where you have got some vata vriddhi features or vata vyadhi patient, you show them. So that becomes more of a uh, towards, it goes towards student centered learning, right? Facilitator or activity style. So facilitators or teacher is focused on promoting self learning and helping students to develop critical learning and thinking skills. Here the role of a teacher is as a facilitator. So active learning, this is called active learning. So teacher centric learning is passive learning, right? So it is like diffusion, right? High concentration area to low concentration area. So you teach something and they should absorb whatever you tell in the class. But here in the facilitator or activity style, the things are different. You motivate the students or you make them learn by themselves, right? So this is called active learning. So passive learning to active learning. So students, they assume their own responsibility while learning. That becomes active style. Okay, so student centered approach and involves creating learning plans and classes that require students to explore and discover the course content in creative and original ways, right? So this makes the students to understand and explore the ways of learning. So this is active learning, and always the thing that you learn actively, that remains with you forever, right? The thing that you have learned passively, you tend to forget it very easily, right? So hybrid or blended style means integrates elements from all the different styles explained above, right? And delegator or group style means emphasizes group activities. See, group activities have got some unique uh, uh, positive points, because in a group everyone is equal, right? And there is no fear of being judged, right? If you allot a topic to a group maybe of 6 people, 7 people, right, students, then the students will read the material among themselves. So you give them responsibility of learning, and that becomes active learning, and they tend to learn it better. We keep doing all these kinds of experiments in our day-to-day teaching in our institution. Since many years we have been doing several experiments, and I'm going to share some of our experiences regarding this. So actually first formal study that we did was in 2005 to 2008. So it was my PhD study, and we did a nationwide survey, and there were several results that came out, but most of them, the major issues that emerged from that study was that, so our students, they felt that they are not trained enough to handle clinical emergencies of primary healthcare level through Ayurvedic medicines or Ayurvedic methods. They felt that inadequate clinical exposure to basic procedures like incision drainage, suturing, catheterization, and so on. Most of the times they cannot conduct normal delivery. This is what they told us. No exposure to a variety of cases, not trained in areas like care of terminally ill patients, geriatrics, the drug and alcohol abuse, and even they are not trained well in procedures such as Panchakarma, Kshara, etc. And yes, poor basic skills of physical examination, diagnosis, and management of common clinical conditions. So all these came out, and we published it as a paper in evidence-based complementary alternative medicine, one of the top journals in the field. Yeah, at that point of time, it was being published by Oxford University Press. So this actually made us to look for some solutions. So problems we identified, now we had to identify some solutions. So yeah, our study also showed us that our curriculum and teaching methods, most of them are outdated, right? Entirely textbook based teaching, mostly memory based. Application aspect is neglected. Many outdated topics are still there. Too much of subjectivity in understanding and teaching the subject, the same topic, or maybe tridosha. Each teacher teaches the tridosha in different perspectives of his own or her own ways. So there is too much of subjectivity. This is what our students told us. Hello, is there some problem? Yeah. So examinations are memory based and not analysis oriented. So this is what students told us. So then we thought of doing some work. So first we published a paper on history of discovery of blood circulation, unrecognized contributions of Ayurveda masters. This got published in a very reputed journal being published by American Physiological Society, Advances in Physiology Education. This is a journal where we argued that when all the erratic or the assumptions and proposals full of errors of these many of these Greek and other Western scholars, they have been documented while enumerating the historical milestones in the history of discovery of blood circulation. We argued that Ayurvedic scholars also must receive equal recognition. So we proposed that yes, this was the major contribution of Sharaka Samhita, this was from Bhela Samhita, this was Sushruta Samhita, and so on. And then we tried to explain how the blood circulation is understood in the context of Ayurveda using Ayurvedic terminology. And we used this as a background paper to evolve some new So in one of the work, we evaluated two student-centric method. Of course, there was another teacher-centric method that I won't be discussing here. So in one of our studies, we evaluated two important student-centric methods. One is case-stimulated learning. It is a kind of problem-based learning, but not a full-fledged problem-based learning, right? And then classroom small group discussion. So small group discussion. So these were the two student-centric methods that we evaluated. And this is the paper. You can search for this paper and you will find it on PubMed, or maybe in JAIM it is published. So Ayurveda education, evaluating the integrative approaches of teaching Kriya Share. We always focused on integrative approaches because of the problem that is associated with cognitive dissonance. Especially these methods were successful in teaching first year BAMS students. I'm not sure whether they will be effective in other levels of teaching also. We need to do some work. Only then we will be able to tell, because this kind of integration was needed because our students, they come from science background, and to provide them a transition, smooth transition from what they know and what they don't know. This kind of approaches are very, very beneficial, highly beneficial, and we have got highly successful. We have got high success rate in this kind of teaching. So one is, we defined integrative methods as the instructional methods that help in bridging the gaps between the two streams of sciences, that is Ayurveda physiology and contemporary biomedical physiology, and the instruction methods that help in integrating the theoretical knowledge with the clinically relevant application. So application and theory, this also we tried to integrate. So one is horizontal integration, another one is vertical integration. Both of them we tried. So we took simply two batches of BAMS, 11-12 and 12-13. So two batches of BAMS students, and for both the batches we divided each batch into two. So for one batch we designated as experimental batch, and another was control batch, and we did these experiments for successive 2 years. The students, so in case stimulated learning, what we did was we introduced a case first, a case of ischemic heart disease. A brief history of the patient, symptoms, investigation reports were provided, and thereafter the physiology was described in a conventional manner, right? The coronary circulation, how it is done, and what is the Ayurvedic interpretation of this, and other things. And then at the end of the lecture, the case was taken up once again, and the students were asked to solve the case. So this is a very simple problem-based learning, a kind of problem-based learning. It is not a full-fledged problem-based learning. It is not a classical problem-based learning, but this is a kind of problem-based learning which can be incorporated in day-to-day teaching, right? Very simple. Start with a case which is related to that topic, that whatever you are going to discuss. Maybe you show a photograph of a person, patient, explain his or her lab reports, clinical symptoms. The students get curious because they are tired of reading theory. Let us admit it. We teach too much of theory, right? what we should do is we should change our teaching pattern from theory to practical or application oriented. So show them some pictures of some patients, some clinical, maybe some videos or some pictures or some lab reports. Then they will get interested, because in first year students, they think that oh, I have come for learning the medicine and I'm not being taught the clinicals at all. So this you need to remove from their heads. So to do this, this is very simple, simplest method, case stimulated learning. Okay. So for example, we took this case. The imaginary case scenario was presented. A patient aged 75 years comes to you complaining of sudden feeling of tightness in the chest that he developed after climbing 20 to 25 stairs. The location of this pain is just behind the sternum and radiates towards left jaw, shoulder, and arm. Laboratory investigation shows elevated levels of serum cholesterol. So what might be the reason for such manifestations? So afterwards, the lecture was delivered explaining the normal physiology of coronary circulation and the pathology, applied aspect caused due to abnormalities, right? So at the end of the lecture, the students were asked to solve the case on the basis of knowledge they have already acquired, right? And according to the principles of Ayurveda, this also was taught to them. Hritshula is rasa maruta sambhavaha, according to Sushita. So rasa, the nutrient fluid, right? If rasa, the nutrition is insufficient, the myocardium suffers from ischemia. So there can be either blockade in the blood vessels, right? Because of vayu. Vayu is actually responsible for the patent, keeping the blood vessels patent, right? But due to some problem, if this vayu's function is impaired, if there is vasoconstriction or maybe some obstruction, right? And then there is shula and rasa. Rasa is involved, right? Rasa is unable to perform its normal functions. So this rasa maruta sambhavaha is explained using the modern terminology also. Then they are able to connect the two. Okay, so and then other batch was taught the same method, same lesson, but without introducing this case. So this case was not discussed. All other things were discussed in the same way. And then we did a small, took a small test to see how the performance differs, right? 15 objective types of questions were given to each batches. And then of course, after the test was taken, then crossing over was done, because it is unethical to teach half of a batch in one method and another batch in another method. It is unethical. Your ethical committee won't give you approval for doing such experiments, right? So there has to be crossover. The experimental group has to be taught with the classical method, and the control group is to be taught with the experimental method, right? New method. So that is how we did. And then our study showed that yes, there was a statistically significant difference between the performance in the test, right? Test performance, the experimental group performed better than the control group, right? With a highly significant p-value. So this is one example. Then another example was this classroom small group discussion. We took microcirculation and edema, right? And then 5 to 6 batches were formed, about 6 students each. They were then assigned a topic, right? And the instructor acted as a facilitator and helped students in studying and understanding the physiological principles regulating microcirculation, while also introducing them to the integrative way of understanding the concepts of edema and shotha. Okay, and then we tried to explain or give them 2 separate things, and then ask them to do a comparative study. For example, edema, right, due to increased hydrostatic pressure, right, which may manifest as tamaka shwasa. Decreased colloidal osmotic pressure might manifest as protein losing enteropathy or grahini, because shotha is there, right? Sodium and water retention might lead to kaphaja shotha because of edema of renal origin, which is similar to kaphaja shotha. Lymphatic obstruction, shlipada, increased capillary permeability, vranashopha or inflammatory edema. So these kinds of comparisons, when we made them, they found it very, very interesting and informative. So that is how we need to bring the applied aspects of physiology in our routine physiology classes. So that is how we did, and we got a very good feedback on analyzing the feedback from the learners. Yes, there was some Likert scale that was provided, and so after analysis, majority of students perceived the small group discussion method to be much better than the conventional method. So this is something very, very interesting. So strengths of the study. The study showed that development of testable integrative methods of teaching is possible in the context of Ayurveda. So far, no such study was carried out. Possibly this was the first study that explored the teaching methods in a uh, from a research perspective, right? We did this study in a very methodical manner, and the study shows that bringing the scholarly literature into the graduate level classrooms is possible. Otherwise, what they do is, our students, they tend to go to the market and purchase the book which claims that according to CCIM syllabus. So they don't want to read anything extra, right? So this is a very big problem, because CCIM syllabus is a syllabus where of course, the new syllabus is coming up, which is very, very good and advanced. But so far, the syllabi also, they did not place emphasis on applied physiology, right? So our study also shows that the integrative approaches make the topics likable and help in avoiding cognitive. Then this is the latest study which we published last year. Hybrid problem-based learning modules. We developed hybrid problem-based learning modules in Ayurveda education, and of course it was an exploratory study, so it was a hybrid kind of problem-based learning. This was also not a classical problem-based learning. Actually, classical problem-based learning has got some limitations. It provides some patchy knowledge. This is the major problem, right? So what we did was, the routine classes were being held normally, right? But for one batch, we used this problem-based learning as an add-on method. So extra added method along with the routine classes. And then, so we compared the earlier batch with the new batch. Of course, this is a limitation of our study. So performance of one batch was compared with the other batch of BAMS students. So the first batch was not introduced to PBL, the other batch was introduced to PBL. And of course, the first batch was also given the same set of question papers, and second batch was also given with the same set of question papers, MCQs, most of them. And then the performance was analyzed. So problem-based learning is a well-known student-centric method. And teaching learning methods in most of the Ayurvedic colleges in India are still didactic and teacher-centric. And the primary objective of this study was to develop PBL modules for Kriya Sharir. And in this method, it was used as an add-on component. And secondary objective of the study was to compare the learning outcomes achieved through hybrid problem-based learning with those achieved through the conventional learning. So the study was conducted over a period of 24 months, 2016 to 2018. So duration required for both the groups was nearly equal for lecture-based learning, and it was according to the academic schedule decided by the department every year. And total time consumed for conducting all PBL sessions was around 12 hours. For specific topics only we did this. And the time taken for conducting the tests in both the groups was around 6 hours. So totally around 18 hours of time was spent on problem-based learning. So yes, it doesn't include the time consumed by the students for self-study or out of the class research, because problem-based learning involves out of the class research. This is something very important. So this was conducted in 7 classical steps. So yeah, so first 6 or 7 batches were made, and each batch was introduced to some problem, again clinical problem. So these steps were followed: making the problem clear, formulating questions and queries, identifying the current knowledge and learning needs, then structuring the ideas, then formulating the learning aims, and distributing the assignments and individual activity research. So during first session, these 5 components were taken up. So a problem was presented, maybe a clinical case. Most of the times it is a clinical case with many of the in a stepwise advancing fashion. First the clinical symptoms, then maybe the laboratory findings, then the history. So slowly you go on in giving a lot of information about each case, and then try to identify the lacunae in the knowledge, try to identify what they know, and then break the session, right? The session is over. Each batch or each group of students receives one question, or rather one bigger question, and each individual in the group receives one sub question. Okay. And one group, 1 or 2 groups received some Ayurvedic questions also. Remaining they got some other the questions related to modern physiology also, and there was mix up, right? And finally, after 1 week or 2 weeks of gap, they were asked to do research on that problem. So they were asked to go to library, or maybe visit internet, or visit some journals, read, and then come back with the solutions to problems that they took up. For each batch, the problems were different. And after coming back, after 1 week or 2 weeks, right, depending on the situation, so they used to discuss and present their solutions. So discussing and evaluating the information. So this was done. And finally, the answer was revealed. So what was the actual case and how to arrive at the correct diagnosis, and so on and so forth. Especially the focus was on physiology, right? So these were the different cases that were taken up. So you can go through the paper which is available. And yeah, HPBL format as described by Lian and he was adopted, where a single tutor handles multiple groups. There are again several types of PBLs. And to promote integrative approaches while learning Ayurveda through PBL, a few learning objectives specific to Ayurveda aspects were also additionally derived for each topic. And yes, this is the performance of the different groups for different topics. And this performance was compared with the performance of the batch to which HPBL was not introduced. So LBL means the earlier batch, lecture based learning, and HPBL means hybrid problem based learning. So these two were compared, right? CP values show that there is no significant difference in most of the cases, means it is equally effective. HPBL is equally effective, at least it is not deficient, right? This is one aspect. Second aspect is that HPBL possibly the effect of HPBL doesn't reflect directly in terms of scores performance in the examination. Rather, it gives emphasis on developing the learning skills, and this component of learning new skills is difficult to assess, and that is why we possibly could not assess the impact of HPBL. But I would like to tell you that the feedback of the students was overwhelmingly positive. For almost every question out of maybe 20 or 25 questions that we had, for every question there was immensely positive response, saying that yes, we want this HPBL kind of method, because this involved activity, and activity based learning is always a very good method of learning. So with this, I conclude my talk, and yeah, I can give you some of my links to some of my papers which I showed you. Maybe I have got a Padlet. I have prepared a Padlet link which I'll be sharing in the chat box. You can visit this Padlet and you can download most of these papers. Most of these papers which I showed you. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, I have shared the link to my Padlet. You can download most of these papers that I showed during my presentation. So yeah, with this I conclude my talk. I think I took some extra time. I'm sorry for that. And yeah, if there are any questions, I would be happy to address those questions. Yeah, there is one message. Okay, I'll get back to you. It is a personal message. Thank you.
Uh,
So
uh, Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking session. We would like to take up a few questions. Participants are
yes,
requested to type their questions down in the chat box. Sir, we have a question from Dr.
yes.
Jimmy. Ayurveda book should be read in their language or English. Which language should they
Okay,
prefer for?
yeah, this question I often get. I often get this question related to language. I think we should be open-minded to a medium to convey the knowledge, and language itself should not become a barrier. So I think whatever language the student prefers, that should be the language of teaching. But having said that, I would also like to say that having to responsibility of taking Ayurveda to the international levels of standards, we should not neglect the English language. I think there are very good books in English that have come up. So English being a widely read language, especially when you teach our students to write papers and research reports and other things, they need to have some skills, working knowledge in English. So I would prefer that English and any one local language should be the medium of instruction. This is what I feel.
Thank you, sir. We have another question from
Yeah.
Dr. Isra. So, very informative session. Is there chance of Ayurveda concepts being translated and improvised? For example, the number of Vasti Vyapat enumerated in Brihatrayi.
Absolutely. I am of view that we have failed to update our textbooks. It is our responsibility to keep updating. Actually, what happened, if you read history, the things will become crystal clear, right? Whatever Sushruta wrote, whatever Charaka wrote, it was compiled and updated by Vagbhata. Why do we forget this? This is the unique contribution of Vagbhata. So Vagbhata, what Vagbhata did in 6th century AD, it is now our duty to update our textbooks. And almost all the commentators, they have been doing this. That is the uniqueness of Ayurveda. Ayurveda has always been kept updated by lot many commentators. It is not like Greek medicine, right, which lives in history. Now we Ayurveda is a dynamic knowledge system which has been kept updated. So even Charaka's concepts were challenged by Chakrapani, right? Even Dallana challenged some of the uh, 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 propositions made in Sushruta Samhita by giving some more additional examples and some more contradictory examples. So this is what we need to learn. So it is actually uh, 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 we need to give it a serious thought, like the Basti Vyapat and other many such things are there which may not be relevant in today's context. We are overburdening our students by asking them to learn them by heart. So we should do away with this. Maybe I may sound like a radical, but yeah, this is what I have understood after having taught the subject for more than around 20 years or so. Yeah.
We'll take one final question
Yes.
from Dr. Gauri Shankar. Should we have basic text?
Basic text in the sense, I couldn't get the answer actually in question. What I
Uh,
what I
I
think
think
is,
Dr. Gauri Shankar can explain. Dr. Gauri Shankar, please.
Sir,
yeah,
sir, my question is, should we have one basic text like Ashtanga Hridaya or Ashtanga Sangraha or Charaka Samhita as a basic text, then developing it on its, that is a skill oriented thing. So this is my question, sir. Should we have a
okay.
basic
This
text and
sounds
go?
sounds like a good idea, but I'm not the right person to comment on this. I'm not the expert of different textbooks. So maybe some other person would be the right person to answer this. But what I feel is, instead of having any one text, we should have, whatever is there in, each and every textbook, whatever is relevant, we should have them. And maybe, for example, like NCERT prepares its own textbooks, which are very, very activity based, highly activity based, and students find them very interesting. We need to come up with such standard textbooks. I have been arguing this, but again, maybe there are so many other opinions as well, which might differ from that of mine. But still, I feel that there should be multi-authored, peer-reviewed textbooks, which should undergo different editions every year or maybe once in 2 years, so that there should be a consensus based evolution of the knowledge. This is what I feel. Yeah, I think there are a few questions that I glanced through. The total the lecture that I gave is related to my experiences in BHU, and this BHU experience may not be the one that is ideal. I agree. I admit this limitation, because what we did was essential for us, because we get students who have done their intermediate or 12th maybe some 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, and they have been trying to get into MBBS for all these 6 to 7 to 8 years, even 10 years. Then after the repeated failures, they get into BAMS. So they have got this sense of failure and this attachment to the modern physiology, modern anatomy, modern biology. So what we did is good in our context, and our context may not be the same in your context, and whatever is true with our context may not hold true in your context. So for our context, this fits well. This is what our experience says, because they need a transition from modern medicine or modern biology to Ayurvedic biology, and this has to be a smooth transition. We have felt this need, and we have done this, and we have found it successful. Yeah, I don't say that whatever I say is the ideal thing. No, whatever I'm trying to say is, this is my experience. Whatever little experience that I have put forth before you, and it is you to judge. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm ready to accept if I'm wrong.
Thank you, Kishor ji. I think we have some more questions and comments on the chat box, including that of Dr. Prasad. He has sent a very long message, but I think we have no time to.
I think I answered his question only. My answer was his.
It's a long comment.
Yeah.
And I think we should wind up this session.
Sure.
But I think I feel that we should continue this discussion, because it's a very interesting topic, and all the teachers of our college is also very much interested. I think we should continue this discussion. I hope you are already in touch with Dr. M.V. Vinod Kumar.
Sure.
He will coordinate those sessions. So it's
sure.
This session is only a beginning.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, it was wonderful.
This session is only a beginning.
Sure.
Let us continue this discussion on some other platform.
Definitely.
So I think the best part of your work is that you have published everything, and for the last 10 to 15 years, whatever you have done, you could publish it. I think that's what we should learn. Mainly, you have learned. Even I have attended your last presentations also. Yeah. Which you directly you show the publications. That is very interesting.
Exactly. I asked the same question to whoever refutes my suggestions. I asked them to show what work you have done to substantiate your views. I have got my publications to show. Yes, you show me your work, then we will have a debate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Yes, we'll continue the discussion on some other time.
Thanks a lot.
Some other platform. It was very interesting. Thank you. Thanks for accepting our invitation. This is a very
wonderful,
very rare occasion that we are celebrating the birthday of 100th birthday of a legendary figure in Ayurveda. So thanks. I also I remember your academic association with Dr. Prakash Mangaleshwari. I don't know why I just remembering right now.
Colleagues, yeah, right.
So that was, I just remember that your association with it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, thanks once again. Thank you. Over to the comparing team.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Moving on to the second session of the day, we have Dr. Prasanna Narasimha Rao, Principal and Chief Medical Officer, SDM College of Ayurveda and Hospital, Hassan. Dr. P.N. Rao served BHU as the clinical registrar and then senior resident in 1990 in Department of Shalyatantra. During the time, he performed Sharasutra therapy in fistula in ano and over 600 general surgeries. We joined SDM College of Ayurveda, Hassan, in 1993 and served in various cadre and presently serving as professor and head of institution. He was elected as representative of university at CCIM in 2011 and as member of executive council for a period of 3 years. He could build team of faculty imparting quality Ayurveda education and hands-on training to students across the country and abroad. He is involved in the development of academic activities of Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, Karnataka, right from inception. He has put sincere efforts to bring essential modifications to make examination system more transparent and student-friendly. He would like to be a torchbearer of holistic health service. Dr. P.N. Rao has tremendously contributed in the field of Ayurveda education, health service, and research. Dr. P.N. Rao was conferred with the title Professor Emeritus in the Faculty of Ayurveda in the month of April 2021. It's an honor to have you with us today. I welcome you, sir, to take over the session. Sir, please.
Prasanna Rao sir, welcome.
Very good morning.
Hearty
Is
welcome.
it audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, you are audible.
Visible?
Very clear. Yes, yes.
Thank you. So, my salutation to Honorable Padma Bhushan Dr. P.K. Warrior celebrating his 100th year birthday. It's a privilege for me to both present before you and submit my salutation. I remember his presence in our Udupi Ayurveda Hospital, new hospital was inaugurated by his hands of Padma Bhushan P.K. Warrior, and what we are enjoying at present. He's a legendary in Ayurveda education, a visionary of Ayurveda practice, and great contributor in Ayurveda pharmaceuticals and research. Once again, on behalf of Honorable Dr. D. Virendra Hegade and whole SDM institution, I offer my salutations to Dr. P.K. Warrior sir. Today, we are going to discuss about futuristic policy interventions for Ayurveda, which is also the need of the day. Let us see the present status in Ayurveda, the bright areas and gray areas. Bright areas are renewed interest among young practitioners in the private sector. Wherever I go, I can experience the younger, especially the teachers, practitioners who are showing more importance for classical Ayurveda practice, and a great demand for quality medicine and therapy across the globe. Wherever you go, even in abroad, there is a lot of thirst towards Ayurveda way of life, Ayurveda medicines, and even therapy. Some of our successful entrepreneurs are example for this growing demand. The safe and effective management of chronic and lifestyle disorder is the strength of Ayurveda, where there are high demand for the management of lifestyle disorder, which are growing day by day, like you see the obesity or PCOS or hypothyroidism, like such lifestyle disorders. There is a lot of demand for Ayurveda management, and also same thing in degenerative disorders. As Ayurveda has said, every 10 years, each decade, we lose one of the important entity of the life. So for that, Ayurveda is in much demand. Unique methods of medical management with the equal emphasis on internal cleansing and preventive care. We have Beshaja, Yantra, Kshara, Shastra, Agni. So all this management system is unique in Ayurveda only, and we are observing these management system, an example of Jalokacharana or hydrotherapy, Agni Karma, the thermotherapy, or Krimi, that's Megata, which is being now accepted by the contemporary medical science for the management of the diseases. Same thing, Ayurveda, Panchakarma, both internal cleansing or external cleansing, cleansing of the mind is unique in Ayurveda. This is the main strength of Ayurveda. And so lack of the gray areas are lack of effort to understand and apply the true spirit behind the time-tested science, where we can strengthen our manpower or infrastructure or the technology to understand and apply the true spirit of Ayurveda. The majority public still unaware of the relevance of Ayurveda for their healthcare, though we have 135 crores of population. It's not easy to reach each, but there is a gray area to reach them, and a lack of confidence in the youngsters to invest in clinical establishment, maybe also due to very few role models like Kottakkal warrior family. So the confidence of youngster should be intubated, or they're motivated through some of the schemes. And such, this is the gray area. And much of the activities are confined to government institutions and very minimal support for upcoming young physicians. These are some of the areas found gray, where the policy can be adopted for having a solution for this. Next one. The Ayurveda updates. At present, we have 3,186 hospitals with approximately 43,358, means approximately around 50,000 beds now for the Ayurveda care for the people, and it's very minimal compared to our population, and around 17,000 plus dispensaries for daycare or outpatient care. And we are around 4,43,000 plus registered practitioners, including we have, that is almost, it is 1:3,000 of one doctor for 3,000 population, which is also considered as very low. And 393 undergraduate colleges with around 25,000 plus trained practitioners, graduates are coming out from the institution, and 140 postgraduate institutions with around approximately 5,000 specialists are coming out from this institution for service every year, and 7,000 plus drug manufacturing units are available, including very small scale pharmaceutical company to very few large scale companies. And this is as per the information provided in Ayush annual report of 1819. So present challenges is re-establish the glory of patient-centric approach as expounded by acharyas like Charaka, Sushruta, Vagbhata or others, right? So we have a unique way of treating the patients, and that is patient-centric. All manpower or medicine, procedures, all are patient-centric approach. We have a Chatushpada for treatment, Vishadravya Upastata, Rogi Pada Chatushtayam. So for treatment of the illness or promotion of the disease, we have this component, and which has to be established. What we find is a challenge at present because of the influence of contemporary medical education and system on Ayurveda practice. To bridge the wide gap between equality of medical care the community expects, deserves, and what Ayush actually delivering. So there is a big gap between the medical care what we are giving and what exactly patient is expecting, especially in Ayush delivery system, care delivery system. So an example here is we go by the symptomatic management of the diseases, where we have to go Ayurveda, right? Suggest for patient-centric care, individualized care, which is missing, and also the expectation of the patient when they see as a clinic or a center or a tertiary care hospital, their expectation is very high. Hospital should be like this, clinic should be like this. So there is a gap between their expectation, the service, there is a gap in the service also, which is a challenge for the present system. And to establish the Ayush centers which ensures critical patients benefit, like efficacy of the counseling maybe, or efficacy of drug or a medicine, or efficacy of the procedure should be ensured. And informed care. Most of the time when the patient comes for us for care of maybe corona as present, or the paralysis or liver disorders, right? What Ayurveda can offer and what will be the outcome. So this information is lacking with the patient, so or general public, which has to be brought into the form of informed care. And the safety. Safety is also one of the challenge. I remember one of my Professor Yala Singh, usually ask to the teacher, every teacher or practitioner, how safe we are for our student, how safe we are for our patients. So safety of the teaching area, the practice area, especially in healthcare system, should be ensured, is a great challenge for all of us. And to galvanize the preparedness of Ayush system to meet the demand of surging affluent class seeking Ayurveda care in the era of internet or proactive communication media, especially the present top to top officials or the creamy layer of the population are seeking for Ayurveda care, and mostly the service are provided in the internet or in the communication medias. So our system should is a challenge for our system to deal with these clients with upgraded knowledge, both internet or artificial intelligent system. So the futuristic policy intervention in Ayurveda, one is the need for controlling medicalization of Ayurveda. Now at present, Ayurveda is totally medicalized. Though Ayurveda is a way of life or is an art of life, but ultimately it has reached to the common people as one of the alternative or complementary medical system. So India is diverse and pluralistic in food, medicine, and health traditions. Among all traditional knowledge systems, the science of Ayurveda provides insights for longevity and a life and healthy life. Ayurveda has a great role to play in food. Ayurveda as patye sati khemaushadam. So if the proper food is given or vihara is advised, right? So we can prevent a lot of diseases and promote the health. Where the Ayurveda, the present system need to gear up in this area. Hardly the food has given importance. Ahara, Nidra, Brahmacharya are the basic pillars of the health. And medicine, of course, the public has considered it as the medicine of late. The strength of, they have realized the strength of Ayurveda and health traditions, the health tradition which are in practice. An example, most of the Ayurveda principles are brought into, included in the culture of India. If an Indian lady in the early morning after wake up, if she offer water for Tulsi, which is placed in front of the home, and take Tulsi Tirtham as a tradition which has come up, so which promotes the health, as we have observed, right? Going to the temple, sitting there for a moment in name of dhyana, and taking Tulsi Tirtham as a part of a tradition. So this, what traditions we have put into the practice, probably we need to strengthen, and which is available only in Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is also a philosophy. Ayurveda is a logistic one. Ayurveda is a principle of practice for promoting health, and mostly even we can slow down the process of aging through Ayurveda. The term Ayurveda is not limited to medicine, cure, or therapy. Rather, it implies an approach to life and living. So we need to have a policy for healthy living. So Ayurveda policy for healthy living. So they should have a national policy for healthy living, which comprises Ayurveda within it. And medicalization is understood as the process of defining a problem in medical terms, using medical language to describe a problem, adopting a medical framework to understand a problem, or using medical intervention to treat it. So medicalization, Ayurveda, that's what I said, is Ayurveda has already reached for the medicalization. Ayurveda is a wisdom of regarding ancient wisdom for health, which has not realized it has taken as a professional entity. It is a social process in which a previously non-medical issue begin to be described accepted or treated as medical problem in the medicalization. And shift towards medicalization is increasingly seen to be influencing traditional life sciences like Ayurveda. It has a great influence on Ayurveda. So medicalization is in multi-leveled in nature. These levels are one is conceptual. Conceptual means the medical definitions are created and employed. So certain definition has been carved for a particular entity, and it is employed through the medical education or medical practice. And institutional is the diseases conceptualizations are codified, and it is used to manage also. So it's totally become the database, and this sometimes create or promote the illness when we have all this compilation of coding system as well as data collection. So interactional, another is the interactional level, where typically it is conceptualized as occurring between the patients and the physicians. So medicalization of the knowledge and education. In recent years, Ayurveda practice has lost its holistic perspective, which emphasizes that the human being and the nature. So here Ayurveda considered, right, as an individual is a part of the nature. So whatever less or added to the human being or any being, right, may help for the disease or may cause for the cause the disease also. So these have considered as a fundamental commodities in Ayurveda, and as a macrocosm and microcosm, which is interdependent. The critical elements of Tattva, Shastra and Vyavahara in studying Ayurveda seems to be missing in the current education policy. So education policy should be clear based on Ayurveda principle. An example right here, we have a Prakriti-based assessment. So when Prakriti-based assessment, right, when we make one of the Prakriti, then we should develop the Shastra or what we call as the science, so that the common people accept it and understand it. Like the genomics, right, what presently is introduced, we need to incorporate into the Shastra, and then to practice. It has to be brought in the practice. Desham, Dushyam, Balam, Talam, Analam, Prakritim, Vaya, different tattvas are considered for the practice. Unfortunately, the present day practice goes with the symptom-based management. So an example, Agni is one of the tattva which is considered for management of the disease, where Agni are what we have an understanding present the gut brain links, right, theory. So this has to be substantiated in the science, and then the practice. So practice should be linked with the science and principles. Then it becomes a Ayurveda way of thinking and management. So standardization with the standardization. With the standardization of education across the country, the local texts like Basavarajyam or Chikitsa Manjari, Sahasra Yoga have lost their importance in Ayurveda education and practice. So these local traditions, local contributions, local understandings has to be incorporated in the graduate level education, because graduate level education is to be concentrated for the ailments which are very common. So we even failed many times to identify what are the common illness, which has to be trained, which has to be trained to our graduates, and they should made equipped to deal with this common illness, which can be cured by Ayurveda. An example, Ayurveda is known for management of Pakshagata, or say liver disorder, the thyroid disorder, or development disorder. Such disorders should be taught, trained in Ayurveda education, to whom we are equipping for practice. So such where these principles, science and practice should be linked within. So such is lacking. So we need to have strong policy for Ayurveda education with the outcome, what they can and cannot. So medicalization of practice and policies, the treatments vary according to the interaction and sensitivity of the patient's or practitioner relationship. Today, with the standardization, the commercialization and the professionalization of Ayurveda practice, this knowledge and understanding seems to have been lost. So we need to have a policy. It is always understood, Vaidya's Hastaguna. So Vaidya, right? Purvaha Bashi, Sumukha, Sushila, Karuna, Mrudu. These are some of the qualities of Ayurveda doctors mentioned in the text, which has to be there with the doctor during the interaction, which facilitate an interaction with the health seeker, and which creates an environment in an individual person, makes health achievement of health quickly. And an essential role of Ayurveda is to create a balance and homeostasis, which is essential for prevention of the illness, whereas now it is its focus is on curative medicine. So it is always thought patients should go to the hospital when we get ill. So it is not good for India to have an increased number of hospitals, increased number of courts, or increased number of the police stations. So what is healthy is we should educate our health clients, right, or our population to visit Ayurveda doctors to prevent diseases. Based on the Prakriti analysis, we can forecast the happening diseases, right? So we should encourage the homeostasis or the balance among the doshas, dhatus, well in advance than treating the patients when they are ill. So wellness has to be given more importance in the policy. So professionalization of Ayurveda, as a result of professionalization, the traditions like Ashta Vaidyan or Puttur Kattu, which are being lost initiatives by policymakers, must be there to bring back these community-based practices that have a profound connection and understanding of intimate links between the human being, community, and nature. The practiced system of Astavaidyan, especially in Kerala, right, has ensured the Ayurveda way of life especially in Kerala, and such practices, I'm sure that's a kind of specialization as well as is a joint, both are joint here, the specialization as well as the family doctor concept. So such amalgamation we have to bring back in Ayurveda education as well as in the practice. Biomedicalization, the connection between the local knowledge, resource, and local health traditions also being lost. So this link we have to build between knowledge, resource, as well as the traditions in education as well in practice. Pharmaceuticalization is once again is an example. Kottakkal is Ayurveda is one of the example for pharmaceuticalization, and taking Ayurveda medicine to the doorstep of the user is practiced from Kottakkal. I hope this kind of practice will build the health in community than what we are doing like industry. Ayurvedic Pharmacopoeia of India legalized only 976 compound formulations and 540 monographs of the plants, animal and minerals, including metals. When in fact there are more than 10,000 formulations which is discussed in the Charaka, Sushruta, Vagbhatas, or the local books like Basavarajyam or Sastra Yoga. So these also has to be made available for the common people through Ayurveda way. Second is need for more funding. Here the provision of liberal tax incentives, new schemes, and GST exemption for promotion of R&D, randomized control trials, and manufacturing automations. So there need to be, like we have those 7,000 plus Ayurveda pharmaceutical companies, but many of them are very small scale. So these small scale Ayurveda preparation units needs relaxation in GST or no GST, and there should be a policy for this, and tax the incentives, some of the exemptions, and support system, financial support system from the government, maybe subsidiary system or other kind of system should be provided for these areas, maybe even cultivation area, the raw drug requirement area, maybe plantations, cultivations of herbs, that's area, buyback system, such things we should introduce. We should have a national policy for that, and R&D, randomized controlled trials and manufacture. Let's see an example the research. You should encourage for the research and evidence-based the outcomes. By this, people go with the Ayurveda products. And automation is the need, because to reach all this population, this is automation is definitely required. And encourage the private investment, including incentives for large healthcare companies. So here now PM Modi sir has already included in the last year budget that 4,000 crores is for Vriksha Ayurveda development, and this kind of encouragement is there should be clear-cut policy for this, and like for the startup for pharmacies, and mainly the herbal cultivations or medicinal plant cultivations, aromatic plant cultivations. There should need to be a clear-cut policies. So the third is the need for enabling insurance and payer networks. So here the practice will foster its demand and will be instrumental to bring it into the mainstream healthcare system. So many of the people write for nowadays, if you see, there is insurance coverage for the diseases. But hardly if he is obese or if he is using Ayurveda care for cosmetics, the insurance coverage is not there. So this is a wrong thought, right? Supporting the people when they are ill, right? So we need to support, we should encourage the people to not to get ill and promote the health. So we should have a system in the insurance, or we call it an assurance system. Policy should be there to promote the health, so that economic of India will be promoted. So uniform inclusion of Ayurveda in national health insurance schemes like Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, employment state insurance, or central government health schemes, or Aam Aadmi Bima Yojana health insurance schemes. So universal health insurance schemes and other proposed schemes that should be everywhere Ayurveda should be included. Now, as Ayurveda is introduced in the defense healthcare system, so it should be like that. The Ayurveda should be rather made first to promote the health and preserve the health, especially of our soldiers, our military personnel, as yoga has made that compulsory. All military personnel or security personnel, they should be subjected for Ayurveda way of living. By that, that should be the national policy for this. Then the health of India will be protected. So need for human resources. Here, the nurturing a base of well-trained and motivated human resources is an essential prerequisite for even a modest scale of Ayurveda sector. So these areas should be well-trained, maybe doctors, maybe nurses, all padas. Should be, we have a system called Bharat Sevak Samaj, where skill is a skill development program of Skill India, where the certification or diploma courses are there. It's not only for the part of resource persons in the medical field. It is also available for the common people. An example, how to deal with a Pakshagata patients, how to deal with an ADHD patients, right? So such system we should bring in action through a policy. So finishing school must be separately developed to help already graduated doctors to hone their understanding and clinical skills. Privileging of doctors and paramedical staffs can be considered through planned programs in consultation with the National Skill Development Corporation. An example, we have a treatment for eye, so Kriya Kalpa treatment. So whom we have to allow? Is a common therapist, or shall we privilege the person who are already in the care for about 5 years or 10 years when pediatric panchakarma? So whom we should privilege? A nurse or a masseur who has training in Ayurveda, who are in the service in Ayurveda for at least 10 years. So this is a rather those patients, the pediatric group or old age group, right? So they are specially concerned group where we need to have a training from both areas. So need for setting up more raw material supplies. This is one of the challenge what we have. So an essential role of Ayurveda is to create balance and homeostasis. So which is a government to encourage and support small scale cultivation of the house and rural regions, which would open employment opportunity, right? This is being introduced by the government, but there are policies are not clear, right? So how we will reach the common means small scale farmers or middle scale farmers or the large scale farmers or youngsters So these policies will help to improve the correct raw material, standard raw material, and Bahuguna Bahusampanna raw material. And same time, the economy also increase. And this is what required for Ayurveda. And establish a corporation for a procurement of procurement and trading of medicinal plants. This entity will cover various aspects of procurement of genuine drug collection, preservation, distribution, export, and research. This is very important. The day which you have in every state, right? Agricultural product APMC market is there, where we can have all the system. There is a system to for the cold storage of potato or other things. Same way, we should have storage, cold storage, or the stores, godowns to keep all these raw materials, having essential oils, such things we need to have. So institute a certification mechanism for raw materials, like use Swarna in many of the medicine, gold, as in the gold basma or Rajata basma. So there should be an system to institute a certification mechanism for raw materials, so that every raw materials are safe for manufacturing. So need for revamping export regulatory guidelines is also the need of the day. So developing a standard monographs for international pharmacopoeia. An example, ashwagandha. Now, ashwagandha is considered as one of the immunomodulators, especially in the scenario of COVID. So the ashwagandha is expected to be used worldwide. So we should have a standard monograph for which is to be included in the international pharmacopoeia. I said is one. Like that, there are many single herbs or polyherbs which just need to be included in the pharmacopoeia of international pharmacopoeia, and harmonization of a drug registration requirement. So this is also, it should be easy for registration for companies in any countries. So such understanding, maybe with the SARC or a BISTAC, it may start with that and reach to the level where yoga has reached the countries. So the need for rejuvenating brand Ayurveda. The Ayurveda brand should be systematically and scientifically studied by a team of experts in the reconstituted by the Ministry of Ayush and Government of India, and experts from industry and academia, researchers, leading to a clear articulation of the brand dimensions, followed by laying out the strategic roadmap and achieving this. The present ministry is doing the best in this area, but still it has to be branded. Ayurveda has to be branded in each level, right? An example, in olden days, right, there was Dasa Sahitya. So Purandara Dasa, if you go get into his bhajan, right? So lot of Ayurveda medicine, you will get Trigona Kirti, you will get Mahanarayana Rasa, you will get Arogya Vardhini in his Dasa Sahitya, which is written thousands of years back. So that kind of brand in the local level, the community level, we need to bring out. It may be like no garbage vans are there, and in every home they collect the garbage, where we can include the rhymes or some of the poems, right, stories, right, the brands. We can brand through those media too, as what we are doing now through social media. So what? So no children are watching Chota Bheem, like cartoons, right? So there, if Chota Bheem eats Chyawanprash, right? Every children in India will eat Chyawanprash, right? And their health will be protected. If Chota Bheem takes Swarnaprashan, right, daily, then every home, right, every children will go for Swarnaprashan, so that the health will be protected and disease can be curtailed. So this is what the difference between Ayurveda and also modern. we need to propagate, we need to make awareness of Ayurveda through different media. And geographical indication protection is to be obtained for Ayurveda. An example, Arogya Pacham, which is grown in Kerala, right, should have labeled, geographical labeling should be there, so that that particular herb which is grown in Kerala and the herb which is grown in Jammu may be different. But the Kida Jadi, which is grown in the Himalayas, right, catches very good commerce of India, but it is not propagated. So these need to be rejuvenated. So setting up the Ayurveda chairs in every contemporary universities. It's not only now we have done effort to set up around 50 chairs in international universities. First, we should set chairs in each contemporary university of India. India should have rich awareness of Ayurveda, and same thing we should practice in other countries too. Confirming the international drug regulatory requirements and standards to ensure strict uniformity in composition, appearance, taste, and action of all Ayurveda drugs. So it cannot be different in different country to country. The regulatory system should be in place. And accreditation of Ayurveda courses conducted by foreign institutions to enable correct dissemination of the science across the countries and prevent progressive dilution of degradation of Ayurveda. Fortunately, the government of India is proactive in this. Rashtriya Ayurveda Vidyapita has been entrusted with the responsibility of accreditation of Ayurveda courses across the world. So this is another step which is taken, which is welcome. And revitalize clinical evidence building. So clinical evidence building is very important to ensure confidence among the users of Ayurveda. They strengthen the National Ayurveda Clinical Database. So we have the database. Every researchers, what we do in the institution level or in the practical clinical level has to be registered, and such database should be available in the, we should have separate clinical trial registry for Ayurveda, right, in the national wise. And we should have standardized treatment protocols. If patient goes to Dr. A, and if second visit, if he goes to Dr. B, the treatment the system scheme should not differ. So that will help improve the confidence of the patient and also outcomes. So the focus, that's what Ayurveda says, right? Up to 21 days, the treatment medicine should not be changed, but the kalpa can be changed. So to focus on research to establish safety and efficacy. Here, research is very important to ensure the safety and efficacy of the procedure of the medicine what we give. And practice-based research network should be there. There are say 4 lakhs Ayurveda graduates in the country, and everybody practice it. So that should be a strong research network, right? Official network should be there. And digitalization. Promote the telemedicine services, right? We have now Proctor or other, there are many other Round Glass, they do it, Curify, they do it, right? There are many digitalization of these practices, right? So telemedicine is one of that, what we can adopt it to reach each, and develop a cloud-based large-scale clinical information system that can host lakhs of Ayurveda clinical service providers across the government and private sectors. So there should be a lot of data made available, informations made available in the cloud, so that self-help can be achieved through the cloud by the practitioners or users. So need for good clinical practice. Clinical trial in Ayurveda need to be guided by the principle of good clinical practice. Safety and therapeutic efficacy of ASU drugs can be readdressed to assure their quality, even in the healthcare system, like NABH, National Accreditation Board and Hospital Accreditation, or ISO accreditation. So this will ensure set right the infrastructure, facilities, the human resource, and safety of the patients, right? So we should be more patient-centric, so that the good clinical practice should be aimed for towards patient-centric. Thus, clinical research in these lines helps us to generate quality data which are acceptable to regulatory authorities. So this clinical research helps to generate the quality data. So what we have this data is minimal, and like it's the multi-center studies will help have a data before the government to introduce such practices. An example, the government has come forward to introduce Prasanna as a national program. So they need a lot of data, research papers for the clinical evidence. So such should be brought into. Ultimately, we should have a policy for interdiscipline synergism. So there should be interdisciplinary synergism for collaboration and knowledge exchange or knowledge share with the basic sciences or agricultural sciences or veterinary. There is a word called vet. Vet is vetting the veterinary Ayurveda. So there is a high demand for veterinary Ayurveda or pet Ayurveda or HR management with based on the Prakriti, the selection in the selection and management of human resource and public health, especially public health, like these days we have in Japan, people have a problem called hikikomori, which has come into India also during the COVID. Hikikomori, where the person will be isolated in a room, and there will be a social awkwardness, and they're totally confined to the room or home, and only in the online, right? So this is a big disease which is coming out, which is very dangerous for a community, and Ayurveda has understood right these days. We are in micro family from macro family. There is a problem, public health problem like divorce and infertility issues, or Ayurveda has a healthy progeny program, and the circadian rhythm has totally changed because of isolation of individual, insomnia, depression, stress, suicidal tendency. All these problems, right, has come out. So Ayurveda has a very good approach for this through Balavriddhikara Bhavas or different way of approach. So Kottakkal has brought out one of the model like Agastya protocol. Agastya protocol is an exemplary holistic approach for autism, which is introduced by the Kottakkal institution. Now is being followed by the people across. So such protocol we need to bring out. Such ideal holistic protocols we should bring out for in the policy, so that we have a strong India. Right, it is spread through across the world, right, through India Utsav, right, or Bharat Utsav, Namaste India. So we also can take, there are many foreign nationals who are studying in Ayurveda courses in different institutions under Ayush scholarship program, right, and we can encourage to transfer for this soft power of Ayurveda, strong power of Ayurveda through softer ways. So the international students and even Indian farmers, Indian traders, Indian industrialists, right? We can take their help into us, and we have health Ayurveda health tourism, Ayurveda park like Techno Park. We have Ayurveda Park, right? So all these recently, right, the Nellore incidents, the COVID-19, right? There's Ayurvedic management in Nellore, Andhra Pradesh, which attracted thousands of people. So there is already awareness is there with the people, right? They have the understanding, but that need to be researched. So last, what I would like to say is like the Bosch. The Bosch, what he had introduced in Massachusetts Institute of Technology in US, establishing an endowment. I suggest we have a creamy layer in the society like Ayurveda Padma Shri awardees or Padma Bhushans, right? Like in Karnataka, with the most of the colleges are run by the Swamiji's temples, right? They should come forward for giving their patents, their financial support for the institutions to develop the research forum, so that many research will be, true research will happen in Ayurveda to pave the next generation. So with this, I conclude these policies. These are the areas to have policies, right? Policies can be had in the institution level. It can be had in the hospital healthcare facilities, or in the local administration or the national administration. So totally, these policies should support the growth of Ayurveda. I really thank Dr. Jayadevan and whole faculty who are encouraging me to share the views. It's not my own knowledge, right? It is a knowledge which is felt by, is a information gathered by the users of Ayurveda, mainly the so-called creamy layers. So with this, I thank the authorities and the organization committee for opportunity.
Thank you, sir, for this informative session. We would like to quickly take up a few questions now. We request the participants to type your questions down in the chat box. Sir?
Yes.
We have a question from Dr. Deepali. Respected sir, you mentioned the medicine should not be taken, but kalp can be changed. Can you please explain this in revitalizing good clinical practice?
I didn't understand. Medicine cannot be taken?
But kalp can be.
No. What I said is medicine should not be changed at least for 21 days. As text says, Ashtanga Hridaya 21 or 22nd chapter, right? What it said is the medicine should not be changed frequently. The doctor, what happens in an multiple doctor level, right? In the institutions, a doctor will be there, and after 1 week, there's the other doctor will come when the patient comes for a second visit. So the medicine we should not change, only the kalpa, right? If it is churna is given, you can change it to tablet, or you can change to kvata base or raso base, right? That can be done. That's my understanding. Is it audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for the answer. Thank you, sir, for being with us today. With this,
thank you very much. Once again, Dr. Jayadevan.
Yes,
I felt that I'm in Kottakkal with all of you, and I invite you for Ayurveda College at the campus at Hassan. This last slide seeks the blessing of Lord Dhanvantari, and they have a huge Ayurveda complex campus having Ayurveda education and research institution, and Ayurveda healthcare for 360 beds, and Ayurveda wellness unit for 70 beds. So this is for your information, and I welcome on behalf of Presidium all of you for our campus.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. PM Warrior is here. I think
I salute for him.
PM Warrior, sir. Sir.
Yeah, PM Warrior, sir. My greetings to you, and I hope what I talked is all the vision which is developed by Kottakkal and especially from you. Namaste, sir. PM Warrior, sir. Namaste.
I can see him. He is logged in.
Yeah.
Let us wait. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, sir. Thank you for this wonderful session. It's a great honor for us. Your presence is always is precious for us. And when you show this slide, last slide, I always feel that it is my own campus.
Thank you.
We are so much connected, and I always had a feeling that SDM and Kottakkal has got something in common, many things to share.
Yeah.
So we'll continue that relationship, and also let us hope that the future will discuss the lot of so many different terms that we have introduced, like medicalization, biomedicalization, pharmaceuticalization. It's all new term we have introduced, and all those ideas like insurance for wellness is another. It's an interesting point. And also you have introduced the words like interdisciplinary synergism, that I think no one has ever spoken about synergism, interdisciplinary synergism. You are the first person to speak about this. I think there are many things to discuss in further. I hope that all the participants in this program have really absorbed or really understood what you mean. So let us hope that the future will discuss those points. With this, I thank once again on behalf of Aryavedi and college. Thanks once again. Hope to meet you on another platform. We have been meeting on different platforms, various platforms in the last few months, especially on online platforms. So hope to meet you after COVID. We'll be in touch with. Thank you, sir. On behalf of the organizing committee, once again, thank you. Thank you, sir.
We understand whole SDM, we have 3 educational institutes in Ayurveda and 1 in naturopathy. For all this is for SDM Ayurveda, the torchbearer is PM Warrior and Kottakkal. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. I was unable to unmute and open my video, so I am sorry. I was listening to you, sir. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, sir. So
all the best. Thank you.
The PM Warrior ji, what I said, all SDM institutions of Ayurveda and naturopathy, we have right source from Kottakkal.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyway, Kishor ji is also here throughout the session.
See you. Yeah.
He is also here. So once again, thanks both of you. Yeah. Wonderful sessions. We had a very fruitful session. Thank you.
My mother institution happens to be SDM, and
yes, I know.
Prasanna sir happens to be the link between myself and Prakash Mangalaseri.
Yes.
So we spent nice time together in Hassan, and I studied in Udupi. So that is the combination that I come from. Thank you, sir. It was nice listening to you, sir. Prasanna sir, namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Kishor. And I actually listened to you for a whole 1 hour, and I sat like a student, your student.
Thank you, sir.
See you, sir. See you. Thank you.
Thank you.
With this, we come to an end of the morning session. In the afternoon, we have another session by Dr. Supriya Rao on the topic Charting New Horizons, Ayurveda Graduates in Today's World. We will resume at sharp 2 p.m. Thank you.